Okay, gamers, it is time to put your thinking caps on because we are going back to school in Trailmakers. Yes, we're having a bunch of logic. Here is the new 1.9.5 PvP update logic. This isn't really anything to do with the PvP update. This is just additional things for logic. And yeah, we have this teaser leak. So let's get into it. Oh, by the way, I'm also joined with my good friend Yzuei because he's here to help explain some of this logic a little better because honestly, I'm a noob.
Hey guys.
Let's watch this 1.9.5 PvP update logic. All right, logic blocks. New logic blocks, function, random, and I don't know what the other one said.
Aggregates.
We get a visualization. Output scaling. Whoa, okay. That's cool. Randomizer.
RNG block, let's go.
A sensor, new outputs, new operation options for the arithmetic.
3 new options.
And cruise control, which must be some kind of logic system this person's made. Okay, yes, okay, so that wasn't too much to take in. But honestly, if you're into logic, this is going to be a lot of changes to how things will be done in this game logic-wise. So if we take a look at the new blocks here, we have the functions block, a random block, and the aggregate block.
Let's see. Functions, the one on the top, basically it's a different type of arithmetic logic block that adds trigonometry functions to Trailmakers. So if you needed any of those before, or if you're looking to make your functions or your logic systems in Trailmakers a little bit more advanced for whatever reason, off the top of my head, I couldn't name you an example, but you'll be able to do that now with this new block.
As from what we can tell, there is so many different functions as an option in this single gate. It's crazy. We also have a randomizer. So basically, it's just RNG. This is an RNG block. It will randomize an output, right? And you can use that to just, I don't know, just randomize things in your logic in whatever builds you want to come up with using this new RNG block. You can see how this person here has made the like a face. Like this randomizer block will randomize a new face look. That is pretty cool. And finally, the new logic block is the aggregate block. And from what I understand, it is kind of like an AND gate, but more dynamic.
Basically, from what we could understand from the stream, is that the aggregate block takes every input that it receives from keybinds or other logic blocks or whatever that may be. It takes all of those and basically takes them together. And there are 4 functions that it can do. It can either add them all together, multiply them all together, or find the highest or lowest input. And depending on which one you choose in its configuration menu, you can send that to different parts of your build for different logic functions.
So if I was to select the minimum setting and I have a bunch of sensors or logic going into the aggregate block, say for example, one of the sensors is at an output of 1.0 and another sensor is an output of 0.5, with the minimum setting, it will basically detect the lowest input and send that through. So the 0.5 will only go through.
Precisely.
All right, we also have visualization connection. So instead of just having nothing, well, we're used to just having these ticks, right? You tick them, they turn green. If there's multiple connections going into them, they're red. You know, we're used to that in Trailmakers right now in terms of logic. But this time, with the 1.9.5 update, we actually have visualization wires and connections. So if I play it here, you can actually see the arrows on the visualization actually moving. So you can see where it's heading. So this gate is going into this is going into this is going into this. It's all heading into this. And it is so nice to be able to see what is going on, because I know from experience, building more complicated structures with logic, you just lose track of your logic, especially in like mechs, for example. If you're trying to do walking animations, you'll get lost in your build. But with this, it is just nice to have that option to see where the wires are going. It's kind of like a scrap mechanic, right? Where they have the connection wires.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, next we have output scaling. I'm going to leave this one to Unify because this one is kind of confusing me. Apparently, distance sensors now and stuff have output scalings and new hitbox. It's really confusing. All I know is this contraption is detecting with distance sensors the different ranges it's finding and showing them as a visual output using these light panels. So obviously everything in the background is far away, but in the foreground here we have this object, and this thing has a bunch of distance sensors on the back, and it's visually coloring what it sees.
It's not a color sensor, guys. Hold your horses. Instead, what this does is every single different sensor in the game now has a option to have an output scaling. So basically you just have an analog, you can have an analog output, which means you can just have one distance sensor and use it to feed as many different inputs as you can within a certain range. So say, for example, on a distance sensor, you can have, depending on how close something is, you can feed it into a display panel like you have here, and it will have a different color. So you can have basically a sort of kind of thermal imaging kind of thing.
You can have a more analog output where it's actually detecting the range. Like, if something's like 5 meters away, it will put out an output that is equal to the 5 meters.
Very handy. And bear in mind, this is for all of the sensors. So
yes,
you can go completely wild with this.
So we have trigger, measurement, and normalize.
I'm imagining trigger is the default. That just means, is the sensor triggering or isn't it triggering?
So this is the setting we already have. Like, this is the default. Okay.
Measurement, I'm imagining, is an absolute value. So say, for example, you have a distance sensor measuring how far away something is. It'll just tell you an absolute number in, say, for example, meters, or in however way you adapt the output. And normalized will make it so basically it'll just be a percentage. So if you have a block that only has a range from, for example, 0 to 1 or -1 to +1, like the display block, you can just use the normalized function, and instead of having an absolute value like with measurement, you can have it on a scale from 0 to 1, and then you don't need to do any extra conversions with, for example, an arithmetic block. You can just feed it straight into the display block.
It's basically a shortcut to like the arithmetic. Like, if you really want an output at a normalized percentage, you can do that now. Also, it's neat to mention that this is a distance sensor and it has a dot on it now. So in the dev diary, we actually saw the dot in different places on the distance sensor. It can either be here in the middle or on the sides.
The way I understood it, the red dot is where the raycast of the distance sensor projects from, because the way the distance sensor works, it shoots a raycast out, and if it's detecting something, it sends an output to whatever it's connected to. So this dot could either mean it's changing depending on what option you have selected, or it's actually a customizable place for where you can actually shoot the raycast out from. I believe it's the former, but if it was the latter, that would also be pretty nice.
Imagine like this is where a laser, an invisible laser, is being emitted from, right? The raycast. So this is like the pivotal point for the sensor. You can actually visualize what the sensor's doing now. We do have new operations in a block we already have, the arithmetic block, and we can see in this window here it goes more than divide. So we had these four options before: add, subtract, divide, and multiply. Now we have constants. I personally don't understand this.
Modulo is basically, if you divide something by something else, it will take the remainder of that operation. So say, for example, you have, let's say, 9 divided by 4. Your output would be 1 because 4 would go in twice and leave 1 over. Pretty sure that's how that works. And the other one's exactly what it says on the tin. It's the first one, x to the power of constant. The constant is what you have in the logic block. So say you have an input of 1.0 going into a constant of 2. Then it would be 1 to the power of 2, which is still 1. That's not the best example. And the other one, constant to the power of x, the constant would be what you're trying to apply the exponent to. So basically, if you have the x, say that's 1 again, for consistency's sake, the 1 going into the constant of 2, it would instead be 2 to the power of 1, which would be 2.
Really simple, folks. Just more math. Just more options for math in logic. So from watching the dev diary, it does say cruise control here. Let's not actually get confused, guys, in what this actually is. It's just somebody's logic. It's just a showcase of a potential cruise control system you can make. It's not a cruise control system that's new within the engine. So you can see all of these logic blocks. It's not actually a function with the engines. It's just an example of some cruise control as logic, like how I've done in the past, an example of fuel with logic. So that is pretty much everything within the 1.9.5 logic this week. There is one more thing I want to point out though. We are getting a new visualization of the spawn points. It's kind of like they're cleaning up the game. My brain has been melted from this today, not because I'm impressed, it's because I'm confused. And yeah, guys, this is free. All of this is free. So it is a community update. This is free. So we're getting this for free. So you don't need to worry about paying all these blocks if you're not interested in logic. So it's nice that we're just getting it in the game for free. The next thing coming in part 1 of the 1.9.5 PvP update is on the 28th of November. Me and Scrapman are actually gonna have early access to 1.9.5 to test out everything and go against the devs in some kind of creator versus devs battle. I'm super excited to get my hands on early access, and rumor has it we're getting a new map called the Great Carrier Reef. So let me know what you guys think of that. But thank you so much, Yzuei, for joining me on this one.
It's been a pleasure.
If you want to see more reviews and keeping up with updates like this video, hit that subscribe button. And yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.
Bye.